Right now, at this exact moment, there is a silent force above you that most people ignore, yet it may already be shaping how you feel, how you think, and even how you sleep. And today is not just any normal day, because April 7 carries a timing that aligns with the moon in a way most people never notice. But your body might already be reacting to it without you realizing. Maybe your thoughts feel a little heavier today. Maybe your energy feels off, not completely bad, but not completely normal either. Maybe your sleep last night was lighter, shorter, or filled with random wake-ups, and you brushed it off as nothing. But what if it is not random at all? What if there is a deeper reason behind these small shifts that feel too subtle to question, but too real to ignore? And this is where things start to get interesting, because the part of the moon people call the dark side is not what most believe. It is not just a hidden face floating in darkness. It is a misunderstood reality that scientists, researchers, and even psychologists have studied for years. And the truth is both simple and unsettling at the same time. The moon does not just sit in the sky doing nothing. It controls massive ocean tides with precision. It pulls entire bodies of water across the planet without effort. And since the human body is made mostly of water, the question becomes unavoidable. What is it doing to you right now? Not in a dramatic or obvious way, but in small, quiet changes that build over time. And here is the part many people never talk about. Certain dates can make people more aware of these effects, not because the moon suddenly becomes stronger, but because the human mind becomes more sensitive, more alert, more focused on internal signals. And when awareness increases, even the smallest changes begin to feel amplified, which is why some people report mood shifts, restlessness, or an unexplainable sense of tension during specific lunar phases. Even though science is still debating the exact level of influence, there is enough evidence to show that sleep patterns can change, emotional states can fluctuate, and behavior can become slightly unpredictable. And when all of this aligns with a specific date like April 7, it creates a moment where your mind and body may not be perfectly in sync, and that disconnect can feel uncomfortable without a clear reason. And that is exactly why this video matters, because by the time you reach the end, you will understand what the dark side of the moon actually is, why it has been misunderstood for so long, how it connects to real physical and psychological effects on humans, and why today in particular might feel different, even if everything around you looks normal. And more importantly, you will learn how much of this influence is real, how much is created by your own awareness, and how both can mix together to create a powerful experience that most people never question. So instead of ignoring what you feel today, stay with this video until the end, because the explanation might change the way you see not just the moon, but your own thoughts and reactions as well. And once you understand it, you may start noticing patterns that were always there but never fully clear until now. Welcome to the channel, and if you want more content that breaks down hidden ideas, real science, and the truth behind things people rarely explain in a simple way, make sure to subscribe and stay connected for what comes next. Above the Earth, moving in complete silence, there is a side of the moon that you never truly see. And for a long time, people have given it a name that feels heavy and mysterious. The dark side, a phrase that sounds like it hides secrets, power, and something unknown. And even today, many still believe that this hidden face is always in darkness, cut off from light, almost like a separate world that exists just out of reach. And that idea alone has shaped how people think about the moon for generations. Because anything hidden for too long begins to feel important. It begins to feel like it must be doing something behind the scenes, something quiet but constant. And this is where the thought begins to settle in your mind, not loudly but slowly, that maybe this unseen side is not just a physical place. Maybe it carries influence in ways that are not obvious. Maybe it affects things in small ways that build over time, ways that you would never notice unless you were paying attention. And once that thought enters your mind, it becomes hard to ignore, because the human brain is naturally drawn to what it cannot see. It tries to fill the gaps. It tries to create meaning where there is mystery, and the dark side of the moon fits perfectly into that space, a hidden surface that feels distant but somehow connected. And when you hear that name, it does not feel neutral, it feels active. It feels like something is happening there even if you cannot prove it. And this is why the idea has stayed so strong, because it is not just about science, it is about perception. It is about how the mind reacts to the unknown. And once people start connecting that unknown to their own feelings, everything begins to shift. Because now it is not just a distant object in the sky. It becomes something personal, something that might be influencing thoughts, moods, and reactions without any clear signal. And even though there is no direct proof that the hidden side is controlling anything, the feeling remains, the sense that something is quietly at work. And this is where things begin to change, because when you look deeper into the science, the story takes a different turn, one that removes some of the mystery but not all of it. Because the truth is, there is no permanent dark side of the moon. There is no part that is always in shadow. The side people call dark is simply the far side, the part that faces away from Earth due to the way the moon rotates, and it still receives sunlight just like the side you see. It goes through the same cycle of day and night. Nothing about it is permanently hidden in darkness. And yet even after knowing this, the feeling does not fully disappear, because the fact remains that you never see it from Earth. It stays out of view, and anything that stays out of view continues to feel distant, continues to feel separate. And that separation is enough to keep the idea alive, enough to keep the mind wondering if there is more to it than what is explained. And this is where science and perception begin to overlap, because even though the dark side is not truly dark, the moon itself still has real effects on the planet, effects that are measured, observed, and impossible to ignore, starting with the oceans, where massive bodies of water rise and fall in a steady rhythm controlled by the moon's gravitational pull, tides that shift coastlines, move currents, and shape the natural flow of the Earth. And this is not a small effect. It is constant, it is powerful, and it proves that the moon is not just sitting still, it is interacting with the planet in a very real way. And once you understand that, the next thought becomes unavoidable, because the human body is made mostly of water, and if the moon can move entire oceans, then it raises a quiet question about whether it can influence smaller systems in more subtle ways, not enough to create obvious changes, but enough to shift patterns, enough to create slight differences in how the body feels and reacts. And while science does not fully confirm a direct connection in the way people often imagine, there are studies that suggest sleep cycles can be affected during certain lunar phases, showing changes in how long people sleep, how deeply they rest, and how easily they wake up. And these changes are not dramatic, they are not extreme, but they are noticeable enough to create patterns. And when those patterns repeat, they begin to feel meaningful, especially when they align with specific dates or moments. And this is where awareness starts to play a powerful role. Because once you begin to expect that something might be happening, your mind becomes more alert, more focused on internal signals, and suddenly things that would normally go unnoticed start to stand out. A slight shift in mood, a bit of restlessness, a change in energy. And instead of ignoring these signals, you begin to connect them. You begin to search for reasons, and the moon becomes an easy answer, not because it is controlling everything directly, but because it is always there, always present, always part of the environment. And this creates a feedback loop where belief and perception begin to strengthen each other, making the experience feel more real, more intense, even if the actual physical influence remains subtle. And this is where the timing of a specific date like April 7 becomes important. Not because the moon suddenly changes its behavior, but because the combination of timing and awareness creates a moment where everything feels slightly amplified, where your attention is sharper, your sensitivity is higher, and your mind is more likely to notice patterns. And once that happens, the experience becomes stronger, not through force, but through focus. And this is why some days feel different, even when nothing obvious has changed. Because the difference is not always external, it is internal, shaped by how much attention you are giving to what you feel and how you interpret it. And when you connect that awareness to something as constant and powerful as the moon, the effect becomes even more convincing, even more difficult to ignore, because now it feels like there is a cause behind every small change, a reason behind every shift in mood or energy. And even though the science explains part of it, the rest is filled in by perception, by expectation, by the natural tendency of the mind to create meaning from patterns. And this is where everything comes together, because the idea of the dark side, the real effects of the moon, the sensitivity of the human body, and the awareness of a specific date all combine into a single experience that feels real, feels personal, and feels significant. And yet the final layer of this is not about the moon itself. It is about you, because the most powerful part of this entire process is not the hidden side of the moon or even its gravitational pull. It is the way your awareness interacts with it, the way your mind notices, connects, and amplifies what you feel, turning small signals into meaningful patterns, turning quiet changes into noticeable experiences. And once you see that clearly, the entire perspective shifts, because it is no longer about something controlling you from above. It becomes about how you respond to what is already happening, how you interpret it, how much attention you give it, and how that attention shapes your experience in real time, making it feel stronger, deeper, and more important than it might otherwise be. And in that moment, the idea changes completely, because it is not the dark side of the moon controlling you. It is how aware you are of it that makes all the difference. And now everything comes down to this one quiet thought that stays with you even after the video ends. Because the more you think about it, the harder it becomes to ignore the pattern, the feeling, the timing, all of it blending together in a way that does not feel completely random anymore. And maybe nothing around you has changed in a big, obvious way, but something inside feels slightly different, just enough to notice, just enough to question. And that is where the real shift begins. Not in the sky, but in your awareness, because once you start paying attention, even the smallest details begin to stand out. Your mood, your energy, your thoughts, the way you react to things that normally would not matter as much. And suddenly it all feels connected in a way that is difficult to explain, but even harder to ignore. And that leaves you with a question that does not have a simple yes or no answer, because it sits right between science and perception, right between what is proven and what is felt. So the real question is, did the moon actually affect you today, or did you just become aware of something that has always been there, quietly influencing you in ways you never noticed before? And if awareness alone can change how you feel, then how many other things around you are shaping your experience without you realizing it? And how often do you dismiss them as random when they might not be? And that thought stays with you long after this moment, making you look at things a little differently, making you pay attention in a way you did not before. And if this opened your mind even a little, if it made you think deeper about what you feel and why you feel it, then make sure you stay connected, because there is a lot more to uncover. So take a second right now, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who might be feeling the same way today. Because sometimes all it takes is awareness to see what was always there.